All right, so the purpose of this little talk is to show you how to make tables. So let's look at a few sample tables that you might want to do. Okay, for example, here you can see a table of correlations, right? This is an APA style table, and there's some things you want to pay attention to here. First of all, you have the title, table 1, 2, 3, etc. This is not italicized. Then you have actually the title of that's the number of the table. This is the title of the table, right? This will be italicized. It'll tell you something about the table. You have a note at the bottom of the table that includes information like their sample size, right? All correlations greater than R equals 0.15 are statistically significant. There's various ways to do that we'll look at. We can see on the diagonal, we have the alpha, Cronbach's alpha for each scale, internal consistency, reliability. And then here we have the actual scales, and they're also up here, okay, in their abbreviated forms, right? And then the correlations between each one. So here we could see this correlation, 0.56 is the correlation between imaginative resistance, and MFQP, which we can look up and see is purity, right? It's MFQP, so purity, right? Right here, okay? So I'm going to show you how to make a table like this, or let's look at a different example of a table you might want to make, okay? So here we have a table over here, which is really just means and standard deviations for females versus males, okay? Again, we have, this is a supplemental materials table, so it's not as detailed, but you can see we have a list of scales that I used in this research, and then mean and standard deviation for males and females, the T for the comparison between the two sexes, P and D, Cohen's D, right? Okay, so how are we going to make these tables? The first thing I would advise you to do is to actually take a pen and pencil and sketch out what you want to look at. So say you have your three constructs and you want to present the mean and standard deviation of each one. Okay, you have three constructs. So you're going to need, basically, you're going to have, your title. Okay, table 1. Okay, this is messy because I'm using the mouse, right? Okay, so this is one row. Okay. And the title here, then you're going to have your three constructs, your constructs here. Okay, so if you have three, you can have 1, 2, 3, right? Maybe you want a column with Cronbach's alpha, so alpha, right? Then you're going to want the mean, standard deviation, okay? And, whatever else, maybe you want the minimum or the maximum, or if you want skew, maybe you want to note if it's skewed or not, you put skew, right? So here you can see, basically, you're going to want a table, and then you want notes down here, okay? So we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. Okay, so the first thing you want to get an idea of is how much what your table is going to look like. Okay, and then we're going to go to a Word document and look at how we're going to do this. Okay, so here we have Word, share, new document. I'm going to need to share this again. I thought I had this, new share. Where's my document? Document 2. Okay, here we go. So there's a couple ways to add a table. First, we could just count how many columns and rows we wanted, which we could do that way, right? So if we want to do that, we go Insert, Table. Okay, I can't remember how many we said, but I think we said 5 by 4. Okay, and we can add more if we want. Okay, so 5 by 4. Okay, so this column, remember, is just the names of your constructs, right? So say we have empathy, happiness, and cognitive flexibility. Okay, I'm totally making this up, right? Okay. And these you want to number, because then we're going to use you can use numbers, or you could put the whole names here. You can use it various ways. If it's if you only have 3 constructs, you could just put empathy, right? You can actually write them up here as well, right? For a oh wait, we weren't going to do a correlation. That's if let's do a correlation table, then I'll show you another one. So these are correlations. So you could just write them out, or you can select this and just add numbers, right? And if you drag this over, it gets them closer. Okay. And then you can put 1, 2, 3. So this is if we're going to do the correlations between them, right? Like I showed you on that first table. Okay. We're going to need to add a row. So we can select that row, go to layout, insert above. Okay. That's where we're going to put our title. We'll put note on the bottom. Then we're going to run our correlation analysis. So the correlation of empathy with empathy is 1, or you could just put a couple dashes there. Correlation of empathy and happiness, well, you'd run your correlation analysis on SPSS. It's always better, or whatever software you use, to try to enter the variables the same way you have them here, so it's easier to copy, right? So if we were to do that, maybe we find the correlation between empathy and happiness. Let's totally making this up. It's 0.33, right? Pearson's correlation. Correlation between empathy and cognitive flexibility. Okay, let's say that's 0.332. Okay, I have no idea what it really is. Happiness is perfectly correlated with itself. Happiness and cognitive flexibility, I do have a pretty good idea. That correlation is generally around 0.4, 0.45, right? And then cognitive flexibility perfectly correlated with itself, okay? Then what we want to do, so say these correlations are all significant at, say this at 0.33, this is probably significant if we have a decent sample size, it's going to be p less than 0.001. So by custom, 3 asterisks denotes p less than 0.001. Let's change this to 0.17, right? 1 asterisk is significant at less than 0.05. Let's change this. So we're going to say this is less than 0.01. This is 0.05, and 3 is p less than 0.001. Okay. So if we do it this way, I'm just doing it this way for a reason, so I can show you how to adjust to line up things with decimal places, right? So then we want to center. If we do Control E, that centers it, or you could just select this little center right here. Okay, it'll center these. You want them in the center. Okay. For these guys, okay, you can center. And this one you can center. And actually you can center all of them, because they're also going to center more or less. If you want it to be neater, you can change it. But this one, now if we tried to just center this one, look what happens. Oops, that's not centering. Okay. See, the 0.17 and the 0.40 don't line up because they have different numbers of asterisks, right? So what we could do to fix that is select those and put them back on the left justify right. Then we need to show the ruler up here. If you cannot see this area right here, the ruler, you could put view, show ruler, right? Okay, go back to home. Then if you click over here on this little icon, click it until you can see a little dot. Okay, once you see that dot, go and select the ruler and put those decimal places so that the numbers line up under your 3, under your letter above. Okay, so now we have everything in the center, right? Then we need to select our top row and merge cells. Okay, then we put table. Let's do left justify table 1. Okay, 2 double space here. And then parentheses. Okay, correlations between empathy. And you might want to put more information like the scale you're using, maybe using Davis's 1980 interpersonal reactivity index, whatever, right? Okay, so this you're going to have to customize to your own needs. But you're going to need some sort of descriptive title that should be pretty short, right? Then at the bottom, we're going to also select that bottom row, merge cells. And we're going to left justify and then put note in italics. I should say italics above 2, not parentheses, right? And then you want to give some sort of explanation of what's going on. So in this case, the only thing we need to explain is what those asterisks mean. So you could, what generally people do, put the asterisk and then P less than 0.05. Right? So if you only have 1 asterisk or 3, you only need 1 explanation. You only need to explain what's actually in the table, right? Right? Note. Okay. So far, so good. But this still isn't APA style. And remember, you can actually look this up in your manual if you need to know. So here, you select this. Let's make this bold, right? Then we need to get rid of all these lines. So we select the entire table. Go to the Home tab. Select this little tab, which does borders. Select no borders, okay? Then select our top row that doesn't include our title. And we're going to put a border on the bottom and a border on the top. And finally, we select the bottom row and put a border on the top. Okay, now here, the only thing you might want to change, I don't like Calibri. You might want to use Times New Roman or whatever you want to do, right? Put 12-point font if you want, okay? There we go, an APA style table, okay? So that's one way to do it. Let's do one more. Okay, let's go back to our example if we want to use means and standard deviations. And let's go back to this table here. I don't like the fact that cognitive flexibility is on 2 lines. If we want to change that, we select that column and pull that out. Okay, and then we want to, let's undo that for a minute. We're going to select the whole column. Pull that, oops. Okay, there we go. And then we want to make sure these guys are all equally spaced. So we select them all, go to layout, and hit this little button up here, which will distribute them equally. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay, so let's add a table the other way. So the other way, remember we wanted the means and standard deviations of our constructs, right? So we could either just, insert the table and count as we did, but another good way to do it is just do this, right? Construct, then hit the tab button and alpha, tab, mean, tab, standard deviation, and skew. That's what we said, right? Okay, and then construct 1, empathy. And that's really all you're going to need to start with. Happiness. Right? Then we select all of it. Table. Convert text to table. Now I use tabs in between. So tabs, that's that tab button. Okay, on the left, right? But you could separate them with commas and it would do the same thing, right? Okay. And it just automatically puts that table in there, right? Okay. So there we have that table. Now we want to fix it. Okay. So first thing we're going to do, actually, the first thing we should do is change our font to a bigger font. So we actually have an idea. So Times New Roman and 12. Okay. And select these guys. Move that open and then distribute the columns so they're equal. Okay. So alpha is our Cronbach's alpha. I would actually here, you can either write Cronbach's alpha or internal consistency, or you can insert a symbol, right? Alpha. Okay. We can write out mean, or we could just do italicized mean. If we use just the mean and SM and SD, we have to italicize them, right? We don't need to actually put construct there. Okay. And then we just fill this in. So say our Cronbach's alpha for empathy, if it's the empathic concern scale of Davis's, it's probably about 0.5, 0.75. Happiness, I don't know what, but these are usually pretty high alphas for happiness measures. Cognitive flexibility, it's usually around 0.85, right? Then the mean and standard deviation, and you just have to run descriptive statistics and fill this in, right? Okay. So then we want to center all of these. Okay. If we have different, decimal places, so we want to adjust that, you can use the trick we did above. Okay, then we do the same thing. We insert above and we merge cells. We insert below. Make sure you select only that. Merge cells. This one you're going to have, left justified table 2, or maybe this is table 1, depending, whatever it is. And you could say, so note that I'm actually making sure people understand. Okay. And then the bottom, you might say something like, oops. And you might say the sample size equal 220, and what other any other information you want to add. And then we'll do the same exact thing we did before. Select the whole thing. Get rid of, put no border. Okay. Select this one. You want to bold it. That's APA style. Okay. Do a top border and a bottom border, and select this one and do a bottom border. And voila, you have another API style table. All right. And actually, you should be saving your work. I didn't save it because I'm just making this up, but you'll want to save your work all the time. All right. So hopefully that'll help.